all these traditions will limited you. So I remember coming from Kyokushin, and I competed back then in kickboxing as well. And then first time I saw someone jump into the air, was happy. I was so shocked because I came from Kyokushin circles, because I said, you don't show happiness, right? And it was in the States. I remember that. And to be honest, because I started as a kid with this type of martial arts, wrestling and Kyokushin, I didn't like it. And I still don't like it, right? Maybe it's wrong the way I look at it. Maybe because I grew up in these like that. So I have been influenced. Let's use present perfect from the past up to now. I have been influenced like that. And like that, for example, when I see, for example, I was a member of an MMA gym here, and I don't want to really insult anyone in Frankfurt, but then when people go and compete in MMA, I see not all of them, but some of them, use cuss words, you use this, and I cannot see that anymore, Jay, because I say this is not the way martial arts should be. That's what I mean with values. It doesn't matter if you use Japanese, Chinese, Persian, European, I don't know, Mesoamerican or whatever. I mean, we should respect each other. We are not, I'm just going to say one statement and then give the floor to you. The founder of Kyokushin said, you cannot separate Budo from martial arts. If you separate Budo, you're going to end up like a wild animal who wants to fight all the time. But even wild animals don't do that. That's what he said, right? So, and then I give the floor to you. What do you think about the value system and values in martial arts, Jay?
I think you're completely correct. I think there is a distinct lack of humility in what we see in these modern televised systems, and also in HEMA in its modern form. I think too many people just want to put themselves on a platform and ignore everything else around them. We see people who are trying to develop themselves more on social media than through demonstrating any actual aptitude or understanding. And I think that's a great shame. People come along and they train at a school for a year, and then they go off and they set up their own school. I mean, my instructor's portraits are on my wall down here. And I think that's the way it should be. We as instructors should always want our students to surpass us. We should want our students to be better than us, because that way the system continues to grow and develop and stays healthy. But that doesn't mean that you should forget everything that came before. I was on an interview yesterday, and this topic came up as well. In science, you stand on the shoulders of those who came before. And even if those sciences change over time, the great movers, Aristotle, for example, would still be remembered even when they've been surpassed by Newton. So it's the same here. We might have a better instructor who draws from modern fencing to create much better fencers than anything I could create. But does that mean that my instructor who taught me a different way should just be relegated to the past? And we see the take boxing, for example. In boxing, you learn humility, because when you start, you're not going to suddenly start beating everybody in the training hall. But when you get knocked down, you learn that the person who's knocked you down, he picks you up. And he pats you down and you carry on. He doesn't knock you down and then laugh at you. Or if he does, it's good-natured. And this is how it should be. You should be creating this fellowship amongst each other. And you should be trying to create something that's going to have continuance. If everyone is just out for themselves, if everyone is just trying to think of themselves and how they can present themselves as the newest and greatest thing, then it's just going to turn into the Oscars.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay, could you please tell us at the end of our interview, and it was really lovely. You just have given tons of information for our viewers, and I'm sure everyone will love this interview, and are already they're watching when they are watching, enjoying it. I just have a question for you. Do you also prepare your students for HEMA tournaments, or what is your take on HEMA tournaments?
I think tournaments have value for your training. I mean, we all know that tournaments can teach you to use technique against an uncooperative opponent. But more to the point, they teach you mental and physical stamina. When you go into a tournament, you can start very early in the morning, and you have to face the pools first, and you're fresh. And these are going to be probably the easiest fights, unless you're very unlucky. And you can work your way through those, and you can come out the other side, and then you have the next round of pools potentially, and then you'll go on to the semifinals before you finally go on to the finals. And this can take 2 days, and these fights can be up to 10 rounds, and these rounds can be up to 3 minutes long. So this drags on. And by the time you get to the finals or the semifinals and you're facing your toughest opponents, you're physically and mentally drained. And to be able to succeed under those circumstances, I think that's one of the most valuable things you can take away out of tournaments. And even if you fail, you can then walk away and you can recognize your weaknesses. I did an interview recently with Paolo Cazzato, who's the world's oldest living practicing fencing master. And I mean, his father was a cavalryman who charged in battle with the saber, and he studied under another cavalryman. And these people are still alive. There are still these people out there who can tell us of the times when dueling was still commonplace. And they're not going to be around for very much longer, and we need to take advantage of this. But he told me that fencing is first and foremost a school of discipline. Swordsmanship is a side effect of that. The reason why it survived so long, the reason why fencing was the place where the noble houses would send their children, the reason why fencing was a discipline in the military alongside drill until just 50 years or so ago, was because it instilled discipline, self-discipline. And that's the true value in it.
That's magnificent. Where does this gentleman live?
He's in southern Italy.
Very interesting. Beautiful.
Yes, he teaches in Lecce at the Accademia di Schema Lecce.
Very interesting. Very, very good points. Before I forget, because you mentioned saber. Oh no, you don't teach saber. Not in the time period you are in.
No, that was much later. Much later.
Exactly. I mean, I don't even need to ask you that. Yeah, very, very interesting. Very interesting to say that. Okay. And just the last thing, Jay, I wanted to ask you: do you also use, because we have different manuscript treatises, or as you say, treatises, and these type of things? Do you use also other sources to compare to your sources, to integrate more techniques, or would you say that you have you want to use just the source you have and do not want to be influenced by other sources and materials?
I think you can expand your repertoire too much to the point where you just water things down. I think there has to be a certain amount of focus. But I would like to reiterate something that I said at the beginning of this interview, which is that techniques are just principles in action. There's nothing to stop you inventing your own techniques if you have a good understanding of the system and of the principles. All you're doing when you're opening the book and you're looking at the pictures and it says this technique and this technique and this technique, is just teaching you how to use those principles. And even Marozzo says, take these things interchangeably. Start at wide measure, then teach close measure, but then start mixing them together so that your students learn how to implement this stuff, not just to learn by rote, but how to actually use it and how to potentially react to something unforeseen.
Hey, I need to say something to you, and I'm telling you this to you as a colleague. I have interviewed many martial artists, worked with many of them, not only fencers, also empty-handed, coming from different. And what you said has impressed me. It is a marvelous approach to martial arts, and I would like to thank you for saying that.
Oh, thank you.
Really, I really need to say it is excellent approach. Really, it is really what you are saying is. But let me just what Jay says to our viewers, and I have really enjoyed it, because what Jay says is exactly what you learn. What you learn, for example, if you go to a good, let's put it this way, MMA coach, if you go to a Kyokushin, if you go to wrestling, because if you want to, many wrestlers watch our channel, many MMA guys watch our channel, many BJJ, many Kyokushin fighters, many strikers, and you guys know it is irrelevant techniques on their own. You need to know the concepts. If you know the concepts, techniques will come. And every good MMA coach, Kyokushin coach teaches you that way. Not, okay, I'm going to do this combination, but combinations are meaningless if you do not understand the concept. And what Jay said, I'm really deeply impressed. Really excellent, Jay. Really loved it the way you mentioned. Really, thank you very much for saying that. I'm going to put information about school in Jay, and you can contact him. I'm sure in this. Do you have online classes, Jay, for people who could book you at this moment?
Not yet, because I'm a complete Luddite. I live on a boat and I travel around the country, and I teach classes. But I haven't yet figured out how to do online classes. Okay. I'd have to figure out some way of teaching, even though it's raining, for example, because there's a lot of that here.
Yeah, of course.
It's something we're working on.
Yes, you are not living in California, right, Jay? Exactly.
Sadly not.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. At the end of our presentation, Jay, would you like to add anything to our discussion to tell our viewers? Please go ahead.
I would say that one thing that we saw in the HEMA community was people trying to distance themselves from everything else. Like you said, you saw people were trying to distance themselves from the Asian martial arts, and that's how you got kickboxing. I think HEMA did much the same with relation to the modern school of fencing. And I can understand the mindset. You want to go back to the martial aspect rather than the sporting aspect. But we went so far that we demonized modern fencing. And modern fencing represents hundreds of years of continuance of teaching methodology based on the very systems that we're now trying to bring back. And to just discard all of that, and to discard the optimized ways of creating a swordsman that modern fencing gives us, or that we can glean from modern fencing, I think does us a terrific disservice.
Very good point. Absolutely. 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 I mean, Jay, let me just mention something, and I would love to hear what you would say about that, because I mean, modern fencing, when I was, no, it was not in the US, but when I was going to university here in Germany, I took like 1 or 2 semesters just for fun, modern fencing. So I don't have any clue about modern fencing. But what I would like to mention this to you, I mentioned this. Let me just go from world championships and Kyokushin, because many Kyokushin guys watch this channel. Guys, with all due respect, with the black belts who fought the first Kyokushin World Championship, Sensei Sato and the rest, they were really tough fighters, Royama and the rest. But just, guys, compare the level of fighters on today's Kyokushin World Championships, the techniques they use, the physical fitness. Look, I'm not saying those guys were not fit, but just compare. Look at wrestling. Look at any martial arts, Muay Thai fighters. MMA, okay, is a new sport, but martial art, but even MMA. Even MMA, compare the first UFC But today, now striking is back. No, because people know how to wrestle. So they evolved. So you see, guys, within this period of time, because our channel is watched by these martial artists, we've seen every single martial arts. And I'm going now to say something some people might not like. Mostly today's fighters, right, at that level, are because they build up on the tradition which has been going on for such a long time. When you watch, as I said, Kyokushin World Championship today, 40 years ago, or wrestling, whatever, Muay Thai, whatever, MMA, you see a huge progress. You just say, God, fighters of today, we just walk over those fighters, right? In every martial arts, right? And now what Jay said to me, I was also thinking about what you said, because again, I don't watch Olympic fencing, so I don't know, I cannot judge about that, but I watch these sports I mentioned. So why should it be a different? So then if this is the case, then of course, I fully understand what Jay is saying. So we can learn from their experience, right, Jay? We can learn about the concepts they have been doing. Very good.
Absolutely. I mean, what you're saying, Kyokushin would not be where it is today without those earlier people. Even if the champions today have used what they gave you in order to distill down the training program and to achieve what they achieve faster and more effectively, those training programs wouldn't exist without those earlier forebears.
Yes, very good point. I mean, it is really, I mean, I've also not heard that in the, I mean, this is demonizing. Absolutely, you're really correct. Because I've never thought about this aspect. Right, of course, we can, and I really love what you say, because I also, in our school, I always encourage all people, you know, for example, one of our guys is doing BJJ, so get your black belt, and I'm going to get my black belt in BJJ hopefully soon, but I should do it. Another is doing karate, do it. Another one is doing judo. I always encourage them to go to and practice martial arts and say, to what level? I say, go and get black belt. Train a couple of years past the black belt level. I don't care how long, 5 years, 10 years. And then when they're finished, what? Okay, next to Razmaf, sorry, another martial arts. I always tell them, practice, learn from, be it HEMA, be it whatever, another style, learn from that and to be a better fighter. And I think what you said about that is really valid, to gain more knowledge and experiences from, you know, and I said it, you know, to Carl, one of our members, you know, I have these interviews which are enriching for me and for every viewer. You know, for example, of this channel, when you say just by mentioning things, we are learning, for example, guys, from Jay at the moment, or from this, you know, but exchanging ideas, right? And this, you know, and everyone in any martial arts, which is a competitive martial arts, needs to do that, because the moment you do Kyokushin, you need to be a good fighter. You need better to learn and bring more new ideas, right? And why should we demonize then, as you said it, in HEMA, what fencing has been or has reached for centuries or decades, whatever, what they have reached up to now. And they are also
precisely
right, and they're also good athletes, right? And this is also another point I would like to mention. That, I mean, I was just talking to another guy and colleague, and I asked him, look, go to the Olympics, right? Olympic games. Show me one discipline where people are not top fit. They're all in good shape. One discipline, if you can. And he said, you're right, they're all good, right? You see?
Well, it all comes down to the dedication of the individual. When I started training HEMA, I was completely fascinated by it. I was enamored by it. And I would train every class that I could, but there were so few schools. So I would go to 2 different schools, and I'd travel to different parts of the country to do so. But it also encouraged me to go to the gym. It encouraged me to stop smoking, to stop drinking, to go out and to do solo drills in the evening. And there seem to be very few people who are willing to put in the effort. The vast majority of people want to go out and train once, maybe twice a week, whether this is in HEMA or other martial arts. And they're doing it so that they can say that they do it rather than to become the best that they can.
Yes, that's right. Very good. Thank you very much, Jay, for coming to our channel. It was lovely to have you here on Razmafzar TV. And I wish you a nice day. And hopefully we are going to have you more often on this channel and you could show us some techniques. I would really love to see that, right?
I would be delighted to.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day and see you soon.
And you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.